Okay, so here's a VOD review for Brenan008, this Evelynn player here. I don't remember. He said he was a Gold 4 jungle, and he wants feedback on basically how can he close out games. He thinks he did well, but etc. Um, so I'll get to these questions last after I see them, and basically give some play-by-play as I go throughout the thread or the video. So first of all, I want to comment on um, runes masteries and maybe some basic things I see from the build. So runes, pretty straight up. I don't really see anything wrong with these runes. That's pretty much what I would do on an Evelynn. Masteries. I'm not a huge fan of Fervor on Evelynn. 18-12-0 is also pretty risky to do in the jungle. You're going to have a harder time with your first clear, especially because you're not going into adding damage to your clear. You're not really going for the sustain here. You're not really going for the sustain here. So I'm going to keep an eye on your level like 1 through 4 sustain and see how effective you're actually able to do it. But in general, I would go with runes and masteries that like pro junglers are doing. So here's like Smithy, who's CLG's jungler. Here's Amazing, who is OG's jungler. And one thing huge that I notice is that they're actually taking runic echoes, and you are taking warrior enchant. And in my opinion, and I think most jungle mains agree, warrior enchant is probably the worst of all of the jungle items, at least in terms of gold efficiency. You only get attack damage and cooldown. You don't get any mana increasing effects. You don't get any passive effects. You don't get any anything useful. Whereas the Runic Echoes actually has a crapload of passives. It's got the mana regen passive in the jungle, it's got movement speed passive, and it's got the damage passive, and it's got a lot of AP. So I like Runic Echoes a lot better. And Runic Echoes enhances the damage that you might get from a Lich Bane, which it looks like he was building. Excuse me, but I am here for masteries, because I'm curious what when I take Evelynn jungle, I just like to go Strength of the Ages. He's going Thunderlords, which helps a lot more in ganks than Fervor does. This website is so slow, I should just stop using it for VOD reviews. And he's also going Thunderlord. So I agree with Thunderlord at least more than Fervor, because Thunderlord, in a gank as Evelynn, you're probably going to get off 4 to 6 spells, but not very many auto attacks. So Thunderlord will give you extra damage on those spells. Fervor's not really going to help. Fervor stacks from your spells, but it doesn't damage from your spells. It only applies damage on your attacks. So keep that in mind. So you get stacks from doing a spell, but you don't actually do damage. So keep that in mind. Anyway, that's basically it for runes masteries. I do want to talk a little bit about your build here. You are going kind of like the old season 4, early season 5 Evelynn build, which looks like Bruiser into Super Tank, and in my opinion that's not very good anymore because they've changed the way that her base damages are. This webpage is bugged. There we go. So I would go back here, take a look at the pros, what they're building. That website doesn't work very well when I'm recording. Anyway, take a look at pro builds for build paths. I don't like Warrior. I don't really like Iceborne, although it's a decent item if they're going all tank. And I don't really like this full tank build. You don't really do as much as an actual tank jungler would, so why force yourself to be a tank when you can be more of like a flank, assassination, chaos-inducing mage? So let's go into this game. And it's a super long game, so I'm going to try and be a little bit less thorough and a little bit more general. I will definitely focus on your early game. So here's another thing. So you're investing nothing into sustain, and you're going refillable. So I would say you could probably only get 2 or 3 camps, and you'll pretty much be super behind at that point. So just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so I do like that you said a word here and Thresh is guarding here, so you guys have a safe no invade style, which is good. So you have this covered, which by the time you're in gold, most people kind of get this idea that like, okay, you need this boarded, or this bush warded, and this bush warded, and you did that, so that was good. Thresh tanked a couple for you, and that's really good. It's nice to do some VOD reviews in gold where people actually know mechanics. It's actually really good kiting. I would like, I mean, this is just a little bit of, but I would like to see applying more autos, especially when you have Gromp passive, or Krug passive, and then doing the like super kiting when you don't. And now Evelynn, this level 3 cheese gank, I like the idea, especially because they're super pushed. It's a shame you didn't get that, but you're gonna get this. And you saved your summoner. So that was good. That was good map awareness. You're not gonna get games like that all the time, but they went super ham. Okay, your decision to back here wasn't bad. I don't know if I liked the whole taxing the wave thing. Whatever, people have their opinions about taxing the wave. Because you got the kill, and she only has 2 assists because her support and you got the kill, I don't like taxing it. I mean, in the end she's still going to be ahead of Jinx because Jinx died and didn't get the kill, but I don't know. Backing here is an okay option because every camp is down and you're low. But I think this is a unlikely game where your lack of early sustain didn't really hurt you because you were able to get first blood. With the changes to the jungle items, it's actually no longer very efficient to upgrade your jungle item for that 650 gold as the first thing you do. Because it used to be the best option because it increases the experience you get from the camps and you get that extra sustain passive. But now it's not really that efficient. All you get is the extra sustain passive and the change to your smite. So getting Skirmisher's Saber this early without any other combat stats is basically saying you're planning on invading the enemy jungler, which as Evelynn into Rengar is actually a pretty good idea. But I personally like getting the components of my upgrade first. So like if I'm going warrior, I like getting 2 long swords before upgrading it, or I like getting Aether Wisp before upgrading it. Just keep that in mind that they changed the jungle upgrade so that upgrading this is a lot less efficient now. Okay, so what you're doing is you've noticed he's gone, so I think this is interesting. I guess he didn't know he was going to teleport back to lane or not. One thing that I have all junglers do, doesn't matter what elo you're in, is take a look at the map as you're doing camps. Just like people say laners should look at the map every 5 seconds. In my opinion, a jungler should be looking at the map at all times unless you're actively fighting someone and you kind of have to pay more attention to micro. What I would notice is that she's probably going to TP back to lane, or she's just going to walk back. But either way, this top lane is kind of a no-go for the next 2 minutes or so because it's just going to reset. Mid lane, he's winning moderately, and he's also got both of his biscuits. So this looks like a lane, knowing Victor, he's just going to instant shove. It's going to be kind of a low likelihood of ganking. But with Victor pushing, what information that gives you is that this and this part of his jungle is completely open to you invading at all times, because Victor should be pushed in this winning matchup that he's got the pace of this lane really strongly in his favor. So this whole part of the map is really open to you because of that. So him winning his lane doesn't necessarily mean you can gank, but it does mean you can get wards here and here all the time. Another thing you should notice is that even though they died, she's still hard pushing. She's still losing lane. So I would probably have, like, it's hard to know because it's going to take you 40 seconds to get down here. But if I scroll back 15 seconds, oh jeez. it does that. Okay, so you're gonna have to fast forward the video. I don't want to pause the video because then I get anyway, just fast forward until you see the next frame. I'm just gonna kind of sit here quietly while it loads, check my texts and stuff. Okay, this is kind of early from where I was expecting to be. And let me turn off blue, turn off red side. Okay, so you're clearing blue, and like I said, as you're clearing a camp, you need to be looking at the map. And so what you would have noticed is that Rengar just showed up here, but he's half health, and he only has his jungle item, so he's kind of a low risk. But you should also notice that Poppy's leaving her wave. Her wave is pushing, and she's leaving it because it's gold, and she thinks that she can win this trade, I guess. So this really isn't any use to you, mostly because this. So even if Poppy gets some sort of shenaniganry here, you're not going to get there in time for it to really develop. So I would ignore that, farm your blue, and then kind of take a look at the map. Yeah, so Rengar went back again for a cheese gank, which paid off. Kind of sucks. That's why she was being so aggressive. Okay, with that, I would just ignore top lane. You know he's going to TP back to lane after the death because he doesn't want to lose in experience. So what I would have done is ignored that and just gone straight to Gromp. It'll save you 10 or 12 seconds. Now that you're clearing Gromp, you can see how aggressive Jinx and Nami are. You can see that Thresh isn't even in lane because 15 seconds ago the lane was actually pushed up to here. So his roam wasn't a terrible idea. But anyway, you kind of spent 10 or 15 seconds. It's a little bit of time, but it's enough time to kind of not have the opportunity to get down here in time. And so this would have been a nice counter for you. Like, you still have about 20 seconds of this lane, and about he landed a good hook. Okay, so you see how you're coming, but you're about 10 seconds late. He landed his hook about 10 seconds ago. The wave finally crashed into the turret, and Jinx is probably in one of these brushes. So, planning your next 1 minute in advance, planning your next 90 seconds in advance is really the job of the jungler, and I would be surprised if Nami even dies here. She might die because, well, she got flashed back. I'd be surprised if she dies. Oh, okay. I wasn't really looking because it was in 4x speed. That Jinx really just misplayed. She's one of those ADCs who goes really ham all the time. So I do want to point out, I was criticizing your timing. The decision to gank bottom was the right decision. That was what the decision I would have done, but I probably would have done it 10 seconds earlier. The fact that Jinx is just ham and Jinx passed up here instead of just back to safety is another thing that you're just kind of getting lucky here. So what this tells me is their bot lane is bad, but that doesn't mean their mid and top and jungler are bad. So this isn't like a guaranteed victory for you. Dragon here is definitely the best decision. Okay, you guys need to leave. That's a good disengage. So I already talked about Warrior. I just don't like it. It's pretty hard to carry games as a Warrior Evelynn right now. You can do the same like early game ganking. Like this, that was a good gank as well. You can do the same early game ganking because Evelynn is still invisible and she's still Evelynn. But I just don't like it by the mid game. I don't think it helps her do what she should be doing. Okay, you're farming this camp. You need to decide what to do next. He just got ganked, so yeah, that's unfortunate. One thing I want to criticize, and I'm criticizing you, but I'm also criticizing your whole team. There's a Rengar. It's a Rengar. Like, he's gonna gank. I mean, this goes for the other team too. It's a Rengar and it's an Evelynn. Yellow wards are almost useless in this freaking game. You should probably, especially if you're planning to build tank Evelynn later, which means you don't really need to invest so heavily into a snowball. Pink wards are super important. And right now, their top lane and their support has a pink, and your ADC has a pink, but nobody's actually placed one on the map, as far as I can tell. And as a jungler, I really like to have this pinked, these pinked, this pinked, this pinked, sometimes this. I'd like to just kind of have those brushes pinked at all times. And having one of these 3 brushes pinked here probably would have saved his life. There's nothing you could have done in real time to actually prevent that gank, but I think after getting Dragon and coming up, or after ganking this lane, farming red, I probably would have put a pink here. Unless for some reason you're less than 75 gold extra after finishing Coalfields. I don't like taking this farm. See, the thing with taking farm is you do it for 2 reasons. You do it to deny the enemy's CS by crashing a wave into his turret, which this isn't really going to crash into his turret. It's going to freeze right here, which kind of screws your Victor over. Another thing that taking farm does is it forces the enemy jungler to that lane to help provide pressure, but you know exactly where Rengar is because you have his buff timer, and he's obviously here, and Echo's trying to do like this heroic 2v1 that probably is going to get Echo killed. So I just don't like taxing waves. I do it strategically, not just because, oh, there's minions, I'm going to take them. I think Poppy should have stayed. He doesn't have ult. I think she could have been able to kill him and get out because she does have ult, so she could smack you away with her ult. Oh well. Okay, you took blue. You left these 2 camps to die because you're planning on ganking. I think that's okay because you know Poppy likes to play forward in this matchup, and she should probably be aware that he doesn't have teleport, so it's a good time to kill him. So blue and skipping these is probably the right idea. Let's see what happens. Okay, that worked out. And this was the right time to tax a wave because your top lane's dead, their top lane's dead, and you can get turret damage. So that was the right time to tax. It's not even taxing at this point. This is just taking a tower where you get a tower. So your team has a really nice lead here. You don't know this, but it's a 3k lead, but you can at least see the score, and the turret is heavily in your favor. What you need to do is invest in things that continue to push an advantage rather than things that are just efficient. Like, efficiency usually means it's good in all situations, which usually means it's not the best to push a lead. For example, if I'm a snowballing Lee Sin, sometimes I build a Tiamat, not because it's like super ham mode, but because Tiamat helps me farm really fast, and if I'm farming fast, I can continue to pressure the map. As Evelynn, I think the best item for efficiency is Hextech Proto Belt. It just helps so much in ganks. Like, that extra little bit of leap is super nice, and the burst is actually really huge. So I would probably go with Hex. But again, you're going with an AD as F build. I don't really like it, but oh well. I'm not sure about this Dark Seal. Okay, you're pinging bot lane that you're gonna gank them, but the lane is pushed. So this is gonna probably be a waste of time gank. They're both levels, like they both have their ultimates, and it's been so long that you ganked that you should know they both probably have flash. And so I don't know about ganking this. It's a little bit too neutral of a lane. You're just gonna tell the team where you are. Okay, Thresh lands the hook. You can't count on that. Their bot lane kind of sucks, and you're doing well with capitalizing that. Not every game is gonna have a game where their bot lane kind of sucks. Okay, how did that happen? Okay, the back 15 seconds button is broken. Last try. Sorry about all this. You get to fast forward, I don't. So. So I just need to scroll up to where the game was live, which was at like 13 minutes. Okay, this looks like it. So, this happens a lot in solo queue. You got this gank bot lane, you killed Nami, which is nice, and you tried to press your dragon. That was the right decision. Unfortunately, your ADC support decided not to. I don't really know why. And your mid, who was pushed, also decided not to. I don't know why. So you didn't really have a good option. I think you came mid to like, I might as well like do something. So I think that was the right decision. You have two camps that have been up for a long time, and I think taking them would have been maybe a more efficient option than like trying to force something mid. Unfortunately, Rengar ganks, and that's kind of your job to notice. So let's see if there were telltale signs of a Rengar gank. I went forward in time instead of backward. Okay, so here's where you kill Nami under the turret. So he lands a like god hook. All three of you are full health. This is perfect time to take dragon, but you don't have any vision of this. I need to do this. Okay, so you don't have any vision of him. So you should know if my red buff is almost up, his blue buff is almost up. I don't know if this is accurate. You have this cooldown indicator. I don't know if it's going to be showing theirs. I don't know how up to date the Spectator Client is with like new features in the game. But anyway, the best decision here is just take dragon, because even if Rengar comes, it's a 2v3 dragon. Probably more because Victor is going to be coming mid as well, or coming to dragon as well. So that's what you decide. I think this gank here, the only thing you could have done to prevent it was put some deep vision, because I think he's gonna he's gonna ult in this bush and just lane gank. That's what it looks like is gonna happen. There's nothing you can do to prevent that. Yep. So he does what I thought. Really sucks. Thresh was also being a pussy here. It looks like he was trying to back. But now that their jungler is dead, there's even more reason to just finish Dragon. She's low, so she can't help you. If she does, you can just kill her. So I think you should just... I don't know. I mean, you can't solo Dragon as Evelynn, maybe. Unfortunately, he doesn't help. So, just farm his jungle or farm your jungle. Maybe get Scuttle Crab, but starting this Dragon is kind of risky. And Jinx is definitely going to make it out before you get there. There's no reason to try this. And Nami's here. You should have seen that last little second of Nami giving her an E. This is really risky. Well, it worked. I mean, not only did you get the kill, but you got the TP. But the problem is you sacrificed yourself for a kill, and Dragon is open. So it's a decent play. I don't know if I would make it, but I like going for a little bit more calculated. In the end, tower diving a Nami doesn't really do much, because Nami herself doesn't really do much unless her ADC is alive. Okay, you clean up a couple kills mid lane. I still don't think your team is really pushing its lead the correct way. What your team comp says to me is you have a really good 3-man mid lane with Thresh, Victor, Sivir. They have a really good wave clear mid, which helps allow them to basically just keep most of the pressure in one section of the map, but let you and Echo pull people to the sides. And any top laner naturally can split push because of teleport. Evelynn's a good split pusher, just because, especially AD Evelynn, just because she's got good move speed, she's got a good escape, she can basically 1v1 most people in the game. Taking Dragon here is probably a good bet. I will point out that you haven't cleared Wraiths or Krugs in like 2.5 full minutes, and you're ahead in kills, which sometimes means you can stop farming and just continue to get kills, but sometimes you should still find ways to squeeze a camp in. There's no reason to fight this. You should probably be telling your team somehow, we don't really need to fight, guys. We don't have a good 5v5. This pick was not the right pick. He didn't need to go in, that was his fault. I think it's really frustrating, especially in Gold. Gold, in my opinion, is where people think like they climbed with like one play style. They got out of Bronze and Silver with like one play style, and it's like their play style. And so you get people like this Thresh who go for pick comps, but you don't go for a pick comp if you don't have secondary CC on your whole team, which you guys don't. Echo doesn't have any reliable secondary CC after Thresh Hook lands. He's got his like parallel convergence, but you need more than just a Thresh Hook to land for that to work. Sivir has no CC at all in her kit. She's one of the few champions left with none at all. You don't have anything. You've got a slow on your R, but that doesn't really count. And he's got his gravity field, but that's, again, not really something you want to throw out for a one-kill pick. So Thresh is going for a pick comp style. He lands a hook, he follows it up, because he expects something else, like maybe a Lee Sin Q to connect, or something else that would be better for a pick comp. You guys don't have that. Kind of sucks that that's what Thresh wants to do. It's maybe the jungler's job to evaluate your team comp strengths and try and decide early on in the game what should we do. So we should avoid trying to go all in for picks, because you guys don't really have those tools. Your comp is super good. You should just basically be here all the time. So getting deep vision as Evelynn, and then being here all the time for any possible flank moment at any possible time, that's what Evelynn wants to do. And Sivir, Evelynn, Echo is super good at doing that. So that's what I would try and get your team to do. So anytime they have this stupid little ARAM mid that happens all the time in Gold, because you get so many people who think they know what they're doing, I would try and just say, hey guys, let's chill on the ARAM. Victor and Sivir have super good wave clear, so if they send 5 mid, we can just wave clear easily. And let's try and just get some vision up so that I can be invisible and flank people. It's really hard to pull that communication off in solo queue. Sometimes games are lost only because of communication, and this is kind of looking like one of those games. And that Thresh all-in was a pretty good example of sometimes you just get people who don't play like you do, and you can't really do anything to stop them. But most of that rant was Thresh's fault, not yours. So there's this stupid little ARAM. Okay, I don't know, I think I need to reinstall or something. I'm gonna have to call it for this video. If you want a second video, send me another game. I hope that's... I mean, unfortunately, you didn't really do anything wrong in that early game. So from the 20 minutes I saw, or like the 17 minutes I saw, I would definitely say there was a communication problem within your team. And you can do a little bit to help that, but sometimes a game is lost just because you've got somebody who wants to dive and 4 people who don't want to dive. People getting caught out is a common observance in a Rengar game. People getting caught out is also a common overlap with the lack of vision. There's a fine line between asking your teammates for help and somehow coming across as flaming. I generally consider most gold Elo teammates to have like the self-confidence of a toddler. So you can't say, hey, you should ward more, because that might make them think you're picking on them. So you should probably find good ways, positive ways of saying, let's buy a pink, guys. I bought a pink. We should buy some pinks. That's the only way to counter Rengar. Your own problem, I mean, there wasn't a lot wrong that I saw there. I really disagree with your build, and I think you could have pushed a lead more with a different build, but that didn't really even come to fruition because the Spectator Client is so buggy right now. How do you close out games early? This, in short, pick a champion that fits the meta. Really is the best way to do it. There's a reason most people don't pick Evelynn very often, and it's because she doesn't have, a win condition that really fits the meta right now. Evelynn really likes to flank and basically take people out as they're making rotations, but right now the meta isn't really focused on rotations. It's focused on vision power plays and grouping for objectives like Dragon and Baron, and that's not really Evelynn's strength. Now that doesn't mean Evelynn can't be played at a really high level to climb, but her win conditions, her ability to close out games, really relies on getting a numbers advantage by just like isolating targets, and that's something that's hard to do, especially with your team comp in that game. What you can do, especially if you like playing Evelynn a lot, like I said, is look at the 5-man draft, and while the game is loading, just decide, okay, what is our team's win condition? I know Evelynn's win condition is kind of divide the map and just win that way, but what is my team's win condition? And for your team comp, that was actually a pretty good win condition, is Sivir, Victor, Thresh should be mid, basically just being defensive, and because you have Thresh box for disengage, you have Sivir ults for disengage, you have Sivir wave clear, you have Victor wave clear. So that's a perfect 3-man mid scenario, while Evelynn is taking camps, while Evelynn is trying to find people on rotations, while Echo is doing his wave clear thing top, because Echo wins most split push late game just because his wave clear is so good. Anyway, and then for Boots at full build, I like Boots most of the time, especially on Evelynn, because she gets kited so easily. There's a fine line between sticking to your target and just being super kited, and Evelynn has to stick. I like Boots on Evelynn. I think you got to full build too early because the items you're going for are just in general fairly cheap. This is a cheap item. This is a cheap item. This is a decently cheap item, although it's not that cheap. I mean, 2,900 is pretty expensive. This is a cheap item. So you're going for really cheap items, which gets you to 6 items fast, but once you're at 6 items, you're kind of screwed. So in general, I just don't like this build. I would research different Evelynn builds that are more current in the meta and going with those. This here, you can't. When I'm jungler and I see someone picking Lissandra, I say I'm never going to kill that Lissandra until it's a team fight. That's pretty much how you have to go. Lissandra loses lane early to almost every matchup, and she's got such a reliable escape, and she plays so back in her lane naturally that you can't really gank Lissandra. I think I showed you what you should have done early in the game to deal with the Lissandra, which is just get vision in their mid-side lane camps around the mid lane, and just use the 2v1 advantage that you will naturally have while Lissandra's stuck under her tower. Next steps, definitely just, I think fixing your build is a big thing. Realize that 20% of games are going to be lost just because you have a bad group of 5, and that doesn't mean they're bad players. That Thresh landed some really sick hooks, but that Thresh wanted to play a pick game, and your Sivir's like the worst ADC for a pick game because she doesn't really have a dash to catch up to whoever they picked, and she doesn't really